We are actually honored today because usually on the Space Command panels, I have some of the actors, and we'll do that again at many of our future events and so forth. But right now we have the contingent of artists. Now, you probably can't see this, but I'm wearing a T-shirt which is the cover of Space Command comic book issue number 2. Now, that was drawn by the wonderful Ian McCaig. Ian is the creator, the designer of Darth Maul, Queen Amidala, the Mark Ruffalo Hulk. What else am I forgetting?
Rocket, Groot, Mad-Eye Moody, all sorts of things.
Yes, he is one of the leading character designer, and Teani Farr is the artist on the interior of the Space Command comic books. Now, many of you have probably never seen the Space Command comic book. This is it. This is it. And Teani is the fabulous artist of the interior artwork. We're going to show you some samples when we get this up and running. And unlike many other franchises, Star Trek and Star Wars, everything in Space Command is canon. So in other words, if you read the comic book, if you listen to the audio play, if you read the novel, all of which exist now, it's all part of the larger story of the show. The first season of Space Command is 12 hours, structured as 2-hour stories. And we have just finished shooting hour 6. We're now shooting hours 7 and 8. We'll have the full entire first season done within a year in terms of principal photography. So, and I don't know if you've seen this, Ian.
I have not.
Yeah, well, that's a copy for you. So, Space Command, for those of you who do know and for those of you who don't know, is I come off writing Star Trek, Next Gen, DS9, Babylon 5, Sliders, Friday the 13th, the series on and on, Smurfs, He-Man, Super Friends. And I very much enjoyed working in the studio system. I worked for all the studios and networks. But as the new media emerged of the internet and crowdfunding and editing on a Mac, I realized that I no longer needed a studio and a network to do what I wanted to do. And thanks to Kickstarter and selling investment shares, my fans gave me $4 million, and I was able to open a studio with 3 sound stages and shoot Space Command. And we also have 5 other series waiting in the wings, which I can tell you about. But let me introduce some of our other wonderful panelists. To my right is Dave Edison, the editor of Space Command. Yay! Cheers. And to my left is one of our producers, David Bartlett, who is instrumental in many, many aspects of Space Command, and also appeared on camera in several episodes. He is the Laurence Olivier of Space Command. Ian McCabe.
Sound design.
And sound design, too, yes, exactly. And he was actually a sound designer on many big features like Speed and Pulp Fiction and Tremors. So he is a man among men. And David Raiklin is our producer and composer. And
yes, and I've worked on lots of shows that you haven't heard of, but they've won awards. I've worked on the X-Files movie and Disney's Sing Me a Story, and what else have I done? Oh, I worked on Batgirl, Max Steel, a Supergirl feature.
yes.
So yes, I love doing science fiction.
Yay! Cheers. And Teani, we've introduced, and then Howard Benjamin, our wonderful sound technician, and also on camera. I drag people on camera whether they want to or not. And so, welcome, Howard. Yay! Cheers. Now, Ian is going to have to peel off at the halfway mark because he has a signing.
I do. I wrote a book.
Yes.
I got tired of doing other people's stories, so I wrote.
Yes.
Well, actually, what I did is I had a heart attack and died. And when they brought me back, I came home and discovered 44 years of stories I've written that I'd never published. So I decided that was not going to disappear with me the next time. So I quickly took 12 of them and I wrote the short story version. And I published them in a book called Small Town Tales.
Yeah.
So this is the debut of the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
fantastic.
one thing I've offered to Ian, as well as I'm offering it to many of my friends and collaborators, is that if Ian or any of you want to do shorts or proof of concept at our studio, you can use our studio for free, including all the spaceship sets, costumes, all that stuff. And
Not too shabby. Thank you.
yeah, because why not? So I guess where we can start, since Ian is going to have to peel off, I know, Dave, you put together some of the images. Ian is our character designer on Space Command. He's been my main designer on many of my projects over the last several decades.
Long time.
Yeah. I hired him just before Lucas did, right? It was-
No, around about the same
I think so.
time.
Yeah, well, no, you
Was
go
it
back
about-
in there. But
Well,
so
put
we
it this
burned
way,
close.
I started at Industrial Light and Magic on Terminator 2.
Wow.
I had been an illustrator for 10 years before that, and I was going to write books and do my own thing, but I never had time. An illustrator earns that much money. And so when I came over here as a guest of honor at a science fiction convention, and ILM were headhunting for Terminator 2 and Hook, they offered me a telephone number, and then it turned out to be my salary. And I realized, but they give me evenings and weekends. I can write.
Wow.
So I started a 30-year career writing screenplays as well as being a concept artist by day. It was like having a secret identity. So that's how I got to know George. But like everyone else, I just submitted a portfolio and got lucky, got in the early Star Wars art department at Skywalker Ranch. And nobody wanted to draw people. So they kind of shuffled them over to me because people are my favorite fantasy creatures. So yeah, I got all the main characters in the prequels, and then the team grew, and it was just like a great jazz band. It was really fun working
Great.
with everybody.
We're now designing Great Solar War, so we're designing a costume for the fleet commander, Jack Kemmer,
Yep.
and also a new look for Dorn Evern, played by Doug Jones, who's going to be in the new episode as well.
Well, what I love about Space Command is it's completely independent of any studio
Stupidity?
hierarchy.
Yeah,
No, really.
yeah.
You know, so ideas can benefit from that, but they mostly can get watered down. There's a few too many chefs in the kitchen. So it is super fun to be working with tiny little band of brothers and sisters who actually, when they say yes, it's yes, and you make the show.
Yeah.
And then they empower you to bring your vision to it as well. And so, Mark's the king of empowering people.
Yeah, and well, also, thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. And part of it was because, again, when I was working on Star Trek Next Gen and DS9 and all those shows, I would often see that the best designs were not the ones that were approved. So the poor art department would have to draw and draw and draw and draw and draw and draw and draw, and they'd try to say, well, this is the really cool one. This is the one we want to do, and the executives would say, well, no, let's choose that ugly, stupid one.
Actually, no, we don't ever pitch our ideas. If the picture doesn't speak for itself, then you don't, whatever you say
Right.
won't matter.
Right, of course. Yeah.
But that's okay. That's part of that industry, and you accept it as part of that job.
Yeah.
Which is why illustrating and writing your own books is so fun.
Yes, but the fun thing when we work together is it's much more direct. It's like faster, much more direct. I don't micromanage in those ways, and because I recognize your genius. And
No, but can
know,
you imagine if your dreams were like that? And you had to, like to check in, make sure it's okay to dream this thing. And this external monitoring came in and said, put them away, put clothes on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, vote Democratic.
Wouldn't be fun.
So yeah, but yes. Well, but see, the thing is, because my background, my degree is in painting, sculpture, and graphic arts. I love collaborating with my artists, and Ian, of course, I knew. We were introduced by a mad artist who I'd worked with on Babylon 5, I believe, and the moment I saw your work, I thought, yeah, absolutely, I want to work with this guy. But then Teani, that was a very different way that we met. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, it was. Well, I'm from Mexico, so most of everything I had done before I met Mark was in Mexico and not in English. So I wasn't that used to speaking English except for immediately with people around me. And I was invited because I'm one of the only dark fantasy and dark sci-fi woman Mexican artists. There are others, but they're not that many, so I was invited at the show, and I had my art, and I was really nervous because I was like, I know I need to go to all these like really famous people and show them my work to get jobs, but I was so nervous. And I sat down, and there was this really flashy booth with an amazing, very beautiful model.
That wasn't me, though. That was Kasturi, who's the model in the shirt.
And Mark, that looked like a superstar also. And I don't know how we got talking. I think
Well, it was very funny
you
because
came up, or you were like, you look so...
yeah, well, Teani was at the World Science Fiction Convention. She had her
Yes.
portfolio, and she wanted to meet the book editors to get assignments, but she was too shy and nervous. And so I looked at her work, and it was astonishing. And I said, don't worry, book editors are nice, unlike Hollywood people. And so they're very approachable. You won't have any trouble. And I knew the moment they saw her work, she'd get, they'd flip. And so, but I also saw that she, even though she'd never done a comic book, I saw that she was supremely talented, and that was how I hired her to do the entire
I
graphic novel.
hadn't even read a comic book before. I had to search on internet, like, what's a panel? What's a dialogue? How to do all the, like,
Yes.
all the angles. So I was asking friends. I looked on YouTube. I saw, and slowly but surely, Mark was so understanding.
It was fun. Thank you. Well, we're finishing.
Well, the amazing
yeah.
thing is that now the trend is to do pages instead of panels. So she was actually ahead of her time.
Yeah. Well, the thing that was so wonderful was that we recorded an audio prequel with our entire cast, including Mira Furlan, who we sadly lost during the pandemic, and so then the graphic novel I visualized as 4 issues of a comic book that would then be put together as the graphic novel, and we're almost done with issue 4. It's really exciting. But those are the covers of the 4 issues behind you. Issue number 1 was drawn by the wonderful William Stout. Issue 2 was done by Tehani, and issue 3 was drawn by Eric Rodriguez, our set and creature builder. And issue 4 is drawn by Ian, so it's pretty wonderful. And of course, it's all a riff on EC Comics, the logo and all of that, weird science and weird science fantasy. Ray Bradbury, his stories were adapted in the 50s for those EC titles, and so I was very influenced by all of that, as anyone with any sense, you know. So it was really, really great fun. So shall we play that clip of the animatic?
Papa, slow down.
Your uncle has flown all the way to New York to see his favorite nephew, Yusef. And you think we should insult him by being late? When we have just to go across town? Hey, watch it. Sorry. Excuse me. How do you plan a future for yourself and your kids?
Record heat wave for 25th year in a row.
When the present's such a nightmare? Because your parents and grandparents ruined the planet.
What's happening to the water? The Hudson! The water! It's rising up!
What's that coming out of the water?
Gas! It's a cloud of gas!
It's coming right for us.
Run, Yusuf!
Papa, the cloud is coming for us!
We can't outrun it. There has to be something. That sporting goods store. This way. Locked. That planter. Stand back, Yusuf. Where is it? Where is it? It has to be here.
What are you looking for, Papa?
There. The scuba gear. Good. Air in the tank. Oh, but there's only one. Yusuf, sit here on the floor.
But...
Breathe through this. And put this mask on your eyes and nose. Good. Don't take them off until someone finds you.
Papa,
Promise me.
I promise.
My beautiful boy.
Papa, don't go.
There it is. The gas. Like a roiling beast. A son should not see his father die. All these poor men and women. Chickens come home to roost. The future is worth fighting for. Even if you won't be there to see it.
Atmosphere nominal.
Air's breathable again. That's better. Too late for them, though. Oh, God. Another child? Little boy.
Hey, this one's alive! Well, what's your name, kid?
He Yusuf Sikander.
Well, Yusuf, God sure smiled on you today.
And that's the character who grows up, the little boy grows up to be Robert Picardo. So looks pretty great on a big screen, huh? Really lovely artwork.
Good job.
So I guess what we want to talk about is the process that we pursue from the beginning to the end of this, of making episodes, making all of this. And I know you have to peel off soon, Ian. So
Yeah, about 6 minutes.
amongst, now we do have a PDF that we offer as one of our perks of Ian's amazing concept sketches. He's done spacesuits. He designed the Space Command's uniform, which is.
You know, it's funny. I don't consider myself a costume designer at all. I was working on the Star Wars prequels for 5 years before that film came out, which never happens. Only for someone like George Lucas, it's completely independent in financing things. One day, he came up after I had been working for about a year, and he goes, "I really like your costumes." And I thought, costumes? When did I do those? And, oh, wait, yes, they're not all naked. I mean, yeah. But look at your clothing right now, right? It's the same weather. We're on the same part of the planet, and yet every one of you is distinct and different. And that's because partly it's your personality, I would say largely your personality, that's dictating that, right? This is who you want to project who you are to the world. And so really, I was just drawing characters. I wasn't drawing costumes, and the costumes are a part of their character. So it was the same for Space Command. Rather than do you a spacesuit or do you a Space Command officer's uniform, it was like, yeah, but Mark, who's wearing it?
Yes.
And then Mark would tell me these fabulous stories. Yeah. And you become the character, and then you just go to your wardrobe and choose what's right. And
Yeah.
that's what I showed you.
Yeah, and also, though, Ian has a huge influence both on story and casting in many, many occasions. I remember you telling me about Natalie Portman. That was...
Yeah, I mean, I need a concrete person to clone into a scene or a costume or whatever it happens to be. So when George asked me to design, this new queen of Naboo, never heard of any of these things before, but she secretly wishes to be a handmaiden and experience real life outside of the castle and so on. So I had remembered there was a film called The Professional. I think in Europe it's called Leon. And there was a young girl, 10 years old. Her name was Natalie Portman. I think you found her in a cafe, Luc Besson.
Wow.
And I really, really was smitten with her. I liked the strength and power and vulnerability all at the same time in this one character. And then I counted the years. It was like, oh, wait, she's 14 now. There were queens of Scotland at 14. So I aged her up, because there were no more pictures of her in that time period. So I aged her up from when she was a little kid, and I just kept drawing her. And finally, one day, George came up to me and says, "Ian, do you know this girl?" And I said, "No, George, but she's your queen." And a week later, she was cast. Was it my drawings? Who knows?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Yeah.
But anyway, then I tried to cast the rest of the film, and I thought, Ralph Fiennes would make a great Obi-Wan, and I drew him so much, George said, "Never draw Ralph Fiennes again." So I drew his brother Joseph, and he said, "Fiennes are banned." But wouldn't Russell Crowe have been good? So he's in the concept art too. So it's the same. It's the same for your show, but you supplied the faces.
Yes.
And they have, one of the things I love is those old monster movies. Those monster movie actors have great faces. You never forget Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, Peter Cushing. You find great faces. So it's really, really fun to clone a costume and a character out of that, because it's written. Your faces get more interesting the older you get, because the history of your life is written there in the flesh. And if you can decode that, you know who the person is inside it.
Yeah. And also, when we had Doug Jones, when I met Doug,
Right.
I told him I was going to write a role where we'd see that beautiful face of his, that amazing face of his. And so then Ian ran with that and designed Dornevin, and it looked
Large, innocent eyes.
Amazing.
And, what better for a new form of life than someone like that?
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then with Ferran Tahir, you were able to take what we had and make it stronger, more dynamic, and that was terrific. And we'll show you a clip from Forgiveness in a moment. So are there any other things you wanted to say in before you peel off? Like how wonderful you are?
One of the things that makes this unique and made the Star Wars shows unique is that you rarely get to follow a character through all the way. There's Padme is 14 years old, and I got to do her hot dating costume when she finally stopped being a queen, and then she's with the bad boyfriend, so here he is, and there she is, and oh dear, he's a little too bad, and so she goes to kill him, and here's her costume where she does that, and he kills her. So I did her funeral costume. When do you get to do that for a character? Well, I'm doing it on your show.
Yeah.
Here's a character who, wow, what? This is 20 years later?
Yeah.
Let me see what he looks like. And he's growing a beard.
Yes.
Spoiler, he's growing this beard. I've been trying to grow beards for weeks. This is 3 weeks ago. But anyway, no, and it changes the face. It's funny how people can age and de-age depending on what they wear and how they stand.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's been the fun, following the characters through and knowing they're in good hands.
Yes.
Knowing the stories are going to really take you on a journey.
And actually, and also one other thing that I think is wonderful is that there's a mutual respect between us. It's a real collaboration, and also I respond to ability rather than credentials.
Yeah.
And so,
but you also respond. Our reigning god here and goddess is story.
yes.
Right?
Yes,
We
yes,
both respect
yes.
and love that more than anything in the world. That's why we're here on this planet, is
I
to
love
tell
Elaine more
stories.
than anything in the world.
Apart from Elaine and my wife, Leonora.
Yeah.
Yes.
The story is master.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, because the thing with most people in most careers in Hollywood, and is they work on a lot of stuff that's not good because the person at the top defines how it ends up. And I'm not saying disparaging anything that anyone on this panel has ever done, but when you know that the person you're working with has total control, and that the end product will be worth having done. That was why Rod Serling was my mentor. People like Gene Roddenberry, Ray Bradbury.
Both of our heroes.
Yeah, I took Ian to meet Ray Bradbury. That was so fun.
Yeah, we gave him, I had just finished on one of the versions of John Carter of Mars, not the one that got made. And we went up to see, when the show got shut down, I collected all the sculptures and all the drawings and everything, and we went up to his house, showed him the Tharks, their big tusks coming out the front, and he broke them off because they kept snagging on his clothes when he put it on his tabletop. I remember I showed him, I don't know if you know John Carter of Mars, but it's the proto-Tarzan. Edgar Rice Burroughs, he was in his 40s, he had never written a book before. I think he was a failed farmer, and he'd been a failed army guy before that. So he's selling ads in a Pulp Fiction magazine. He goes, reading the story, he's going, these are terrible. I could write this. So he sat down and he wrote Princess of Mars.
Yes.
Right? And then
1912.
And then it was a success, and so they came back and said, can you do us a sequel? He goes, I don't do sequels. And he writes Tarzan. And they writes 5 others, great franchises, and then he gets over his aversion to sequels and stuff. Right. So anyways, I had worked on that, and obviously Ray Bradbury,
Yes.
I think one of the first things he ever wrote
Yes.
was a sequel to Princess of Mars.
When he was 12.
He was
Yes.
12. He's a kid.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that there's more books. And he thought, this should go on, and he writes the sequel. So anyway, we showed him all the art that we did. And I remember when Deja Thoris came on the screen. And on Mars, they don't wear a lot of clothes. They got red skin, and it's hot. So they're in bikinis and small wear. So anyway, I put up my beautiful Deja Thoris, who looks lovely in her small wear, and Ray just went, oh, put some clothes on her. And I went, what? Ray, it says in the book they're naked. He goes, naked in 1910 meant you could see their ankles. So I said, wow, so who's your perfect Princess of Mars? And he smiled and leaned back and he went, Glenn Close. And it's funny how standards and faces of beauty change over the years, because most people wouldn't consider Glenn Close the apex of beauty. Deja's supposed to be the most beautiful woman in the universe. But to Ray, she was, and you saw that dreamy look on his face, which is really cute.
Well, what Ray told me that he wrote one novel. It took him 50 years to write it and get it where he wanted it. And he said, I wrote it for Katharine Hepburn, but by the time I finished, she was dead.
So sad.
Yes. So that's great. So
anyway, yes, I do have to,
you have to run.
peel off. I'm so sorry, but it's so
Well,
good to see you all. Thanks for supporting this project. It really is one of the worthy things.
Yes.
And also, he'll get you on camera if you sit too still for too long.
Yes. Take care. Thanks, Ian. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for making me a better artist in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. That's great.
Your art is so beautiful.
So yeah, and as I told you, the images you saw from Tahani's graphic novel, that's the first comic book she's ever drawn, and it's astonishing. So 3 cheers for Tahani as well. Yay. So And so what we're going to do now, I think, is show you a clip from Forgiveness, which is the episode we're in post-production on now. It stars our regular cast of wonderful people, and Nichelle Nichols as well, and Farhan Tahar, who was in J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movie. He's the Starfleet captain who gets skewered by the Romulans at the beginning of the movie. You've seen him in a million things, and
Iron Man.
He's also an Iron Man. And so let's show that. Oh, and let me set it up for 1 second, just so, hang on one, Dave. Captain Kemmer, believes that Farhan Tahir's character, Hussein, is responsible for the death of Jack's wife, and he escaped prison. Jack caught him, he escaped from prison, has been missing for 5 years, and he ends up he finds him, he's in a religious colony on Mercury, but 300 religious pilgrims coming to Mercury have disappeared, and Hussein has reached out to Jack and said, if you help me find what's happened to those 300 pilgrims, I'll turn myself in. And Jack doesn't believe that he's sincere. So they find the cargo ship the pilgrims were bound to Mercury on, and it's empty, and they find 2 dead security men, and then Hussein loses patience, and he goes to the cargo hold where the pilgrim's last message was sent from, and that's where it starts. This is the rough cut.
Hussein! Stop!
Bracket!
Is that a pilgrim or one of the crew?
Neither.
It's a synthetic.
Combat synth. Somehow left when Dornevan freed the rest.
Anubis used to assign them to these type of missions to augment their crew. He's in field repair mode, which means he sustained significant damage.
What are those marks on his face?
I don't know. His proximity alert's coming online.
Deactivate him! If he's damaged, he might...
Get back!
This will burn your neural network to slag, Seth. So think twice about your next move.
Put down the weapon.
No! You're welcome.
How's your dinner?
Much better without handcuffs.
I want to know why you saved me.
I just acted without thinking.
No, you don't do anything without thinking.
My family was part of the Bangladeshi diaspora. Cheap labor for off-world colonies. Where else could we go? Our country was underwater. You know what that led to?
LaGrange genocides.
Sometimes you wake up every day crying for justice. But justice and vengeance become indistinguishable. And in time, they're not choices, just actions. When I came to Helios, I wanted to steal a ship, but they had them locked down tight. And then there was all that meditation. For some, silence is a sanctuary, but for others, I decided to take the long walk, put on a spacesuit and head for the sun. When I came to, I was back in the Iron City again. The prophet had come for me, you see. I saw those incredible eyes looking down at me. And the prophet said, "Time to forgive."
Yes?
Captain, I've got the combat synthetic responsive.
Right there.
I can be of assistance.
You've done enough.
Captain, our ghosts aren't quiet, are they?
Great. Yay. Thanks. Thanks, guys. So yes. So we have a full 2-hour shot now, which is phenomenal, and we're in post-production on it. So you'll see a very different version ultimately with sound effects and finished music, and So David Bartlett, you are sitting next to me.
I am.
And you've been intimately involved with how the sausage is made. And so
This
I
is
don't.
true.
So yes, so you were there for the shooting of that scene, and you've been in post-production and various functions ever since. What would you like
Well,
to?
I was there. I actually was helping build sets for the first shoot, which was years ago.
Yeah.
And that was it was fun because I started building sets in high school, and when I moved to LA, I started working at New World Pictures with production designer Jim Cameron building sets, and that was fun. And so I sort of came full circle, and I volunteered to help build sets on Space Command, and that's how I was a member of the Table before that, a group that meets once a week on Thursdays that Mark and Elaine started many years ago. And the Table always helped feed Space Command and back and forth, and I was part of that too, so it all sort of came together naturally. I did a lot of post-production later. I did post-production sound on it, and I got drafted to act in a scene, which became another scene, which is fun.
Yeah.
The animatronic dogs that I purchase get out of control, and they won't stop licking my ears.
Yes,
And,
the robot dogs.
Came from Mark and Elaine's actual dogs who were obsessed with my ears.
Yes.
So he
Well,
wrote it into a scene.
Well, this is during the pandemic when we decided to do a bonus episode where the actors would shoot their own scenes with us directing long distance.
I don't know how to turn them off. I don't even know how to turn them down.
And so it was very fun to just be able to do something very experimental. It was funny when we were shooting Forgiveness during that period. The next day we were shooting on 2 other sets on the Paladin, and the set builder designer told us that he wasn't able to give us anything. He wasn't able to have anything ready. So we had to basically take bits and pieces and throw it together to make other sets. And that was, fortunately, I'm Magpie, and Greg Jean gave us some warheads, nuclear warheads from war games, and we had doors and so forth. And it was just like, okay, make an armory, make a science lab, and it was, because we had the ability to do that. It's, many of the people on our team function in many different capacities, as you know.
It sounds like I was just building sets.
No,
for Space
not at
Command.
all. No.
I produced the first show,
Yes.
a lot of it, and I
Yes.
produced 1,800 visual effects, and I did a lot of work beyond just building
Oh, yeah.
sets.
Yeah.
But it was fun to be involved in all these aspects because Mark was very collaborative, and so was Elaine, and they were welcome to anybody coming along that wanted to participate, and it was a good match.
Yeah.
So that's really more of the background.
Thanks, and that's why again, like David Raiklen is like a producer and the composer, and also David ran our first Kickstarter campaign, so there wouldn't be any.
I'm
Space
also the
Command.
convention lead here,
Yes.
and I'd like to get a word in about music. So, the first episode is a movie, and so is the second episode. They're approximately 2 hours long. And the first episode, it was about Dornevan, an android who develops a religious consciousness. And there's also an alien race involved. And one of the things that we needed to do was to create a sound and a vocabulary, a language for the aliens. So that was my job, and it was one of the most interesting projects because we got to do what's called a conlang, or a constructed language, because it was very important that no matter where on Earth or in the universe that we showed the movie, it had to sound alien and foreign. So we made up our own language. And we got the cast, Doug Jones and Mira Furlan, other cast members, were in the recording studio with me to sing or say the language of the alien civilization. And that was such a thrill and a really interesting project. And the performers, who were very experienced people, had said that this was something new for them that they hadn't done before. So while their character is on the screen, their voice is on the soundtrack, being the voice of the alien creatures that are being portrayed, whether they're physically there or just there through their technology and their civilization. So that is a really cool aspect of world building, or creating the Space Command universe.
Yeah.
And all of this was done with symphony orchestra, live chorus, and an electric band.
Yeah.
So the Space Command soundtrack is really quite thrilling, and it's available on Apple Music, Amazon, and wherever fine soundtracks are sold. So you might want to check that out. And of course, the first episode is on Amazon Prime, so you can see that full movie, which is called Redemption.
Yes.
The score that we're working on now is the Forgiveness episode that you just saw. And this is very different. This is more of a horror kind of thriller world. And that means that, again, we have to change the musical vocabulary, because we had aliens and religious as exaltation and other wonderful high emotion states, but they're very different here. So there's a sense of wonder and all that. So it's important to have themes, themes that are uniting and helping to glue together all of the scenes and characters and different storylines from different episodes. And actually, the theme for Space Command was the first element that was created for the show that's still in the show today. So the theme song that we wrote is still the theme that's for the Kemmer family and Space Command. And there's also lots of new themes here. And hopefully you'll be able to kind of pick up on those unconsciously, and they'll help tell the story. And we have unique musical instruments that I've designed for this episode, so it gets a unique sound, and we have a sense of it being alien civilization, but a very different kind of alien civilization. And actually, there's multiple aliens in this one. I hope I'm not giving away too much. So that's a huge creative palette that you'd probably have to be working on, like, a ginormous movie universe to be able to do any place except Space Command.
Yeah, and David will have a full orchestra, but by the time we get to the final stages of the musical score on Forgiveness. Now, I wanted to jump in and mention Howard Benjamin. Howard Benjamin is he's holding down the table over there, and is our sound guy and so forth, as well as being a very, very noted journalist and founder of the Television Critics Association and all sorts of stuff. So, Howard, is there anything you'd like to say about this journey that we've been taking on Space Command?
11 years ago or 12 years ago when we first started this, I didn't know what the hell I was getting into, but I do now. And
And I quit.
It's been a fascinating ride. The very fact that not only have I been there since the beginning doing all the sound recordings on location with Mark and Elaine, they were kind enough to write a part for me, and that cultish group of religious zealots that are the governing body of this planet. I got to play one of those elders named Elder Howard. It was a stretch, being elder and being Howard. And the leader of that group is, without a doubt, one of the most gifted actors on the planet. James Hong, it was his 500th show that he was a part of, film or television production. And he plays the head of the group. Being in the same room as him and actually being able to exercise whatever chops I've got against him was just a rare treat and something I'll never forget. So thanks for letting me be a part of this since the very beginning.
It's great. And just to let everyone know, we have a Kickstarter campaign going. Our Kickstarter campaign is what's going to finance shooting the episode we're currently shooting, which is The Great Solar War, which will star many wonderful actors to come, Bill Mumy, Robert Picardo, Doug Jones, etc. So there's a QR code to take you right to the Kickstarter campaign. So yeah, thank you. So are there questions? By the way, I recently wrote a book called Greenlighting Yourself, so if you've wanted to make your own science fiction empire, it'll tell you how to do that. So do we have any questions from the audience? Anyone wants to?
By the way, this is all thanks to you that we're doing this. And in particular, we have people like Mira LaCruz over here, who's done, who not only plays an alien, but has done a lot of the wiring work on some of these consoles that you picked up from science fiction, so amazing electrical work. I think, is that Vince over there?
Yes, Vince is there, and he's
Vince
one of our...
That's one of our VFX guys.
Yes.
Tireless and patient as hell.
Yes.
And you folks for helping us all along. So I know we've been doing this since what, the mid 1400s?
Henry VIII was the king, I think, when we started.
He was a nice fellow.
Yeah, really
so
nice.
Thank you.
Good appetite. But any questions from the audience?
I'm an old fan of Babylon 5.
Yes.
Apparently 3 of the actors
Yes.
series. Can you elaborate on how they were used?
Yes. Well, Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy and Bruce Boxleitner are in Space Command, and it was the first time they had acted together since Babylon 5, which I wrote for. And they're incredible actors. And so Mira plays a xenoarchaeologist. She uncovers a 200-million-year-old spaceship on Mars. And Bill Mumy, whom I've known since I was 7, when he was in Lost in Space, he plays sort of the Steve Jobs / Elon Musk of the future, Greg Mazzy. He invents the synthetic humans, and Doug Jones plays a synthetic human. Bruce Boxleitner plays a general in Space Command who's sort of over our main hero, Captain Jack Kemmer. It's really fun to see them all together again, and they had great on-screen presence and great camaraderie. It was an amazing cast on Babylon 5, and to go on those sets, it was a lot of what I've built was very much I'm the only writer who wrote for both Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine, and I learned a lot of lessons from how you build standing sets and how you run a show utilizing the sets and utilizing your own studio. Joe Straczynski was really the vanguard in that. So that's how we did it. So thank you all.